all putting in the work, and I'm really happy about that. Okay? Just keep showing up. Keep coming to meetings. That's how this thing works. Okay? Okay, and I see we have a new person at our meeting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Actually, I have an activity we can all do together. We should go to Plastic City Comic-Con. There's just so much to do there. There's comic books, toys, games, anything you can ask for.
Wait, do you work for Plastic City Comic-Con?
Me? Work for Plastic City Comic-Con?
But we're all going to Plastic City Comic-Con, right? I thought so. Now, who here owes me money?
PlasticCityComicCon.com for info and tickets.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots and promoter for the Plastic City Comic-Con. With me is always Johnny C., creator of Sartana, Surrounded by Death and the Pawn for Roger Maraca. And our third co-host, Harry G., graphic artist extraordinaire.
Hey, everybody.
Gentlemen, feels like I've seen you more and more recently on this
I know,
show.
right? Actually, so speaking of seeing people, I could have swore I saw the Plastic City Comic-Con girl from the commercial on like an local insurance ad or something.
Really? Which one?
I couldn't place it. I'd have to really pay attention the next time. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, where did I see this girl? Where did I see this girl? And then like 7 commercials later, it struck me. I was like, I think that's the Plastic City girl.
Which girl? The one that runs out?
The one that runs out.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she does a good job.
She's ahead of her time because Big Poppy has a commercial out where he's like, "Oh, I laugh under the in the face of pressure." It's like, ha ha ha! It's the same kind of laugh as she did. So she was ahead of her time, actually. So.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what we call a trendsetter.
Yep.
Yeah, and it could be like because I think Phil, who filmed the commercial, did cast in like the Boston area for actors and stuff like that.
Perfect.
You know? And I know
thought it was just like Comic-Con volunteers.
Yeah, a lot of the cosplayers we see at all these shows, you know, which is great, you know. But yeah, no, that's good stuff. We might do one this year. I got to see if I have it in the budget though. Like I'd love to do a commercial, but I'm kind of bringing in a couple guests. Like I'm working on Jim Salicrup. I don't know if I told you guys that. Like he was like the editor-in-chief of Marvel from like in the 1980s. So it's good. And I got on Jimmy Hart's manager today because Jimmy Hart's supposed to film a promo that he's going to be at the show. I was going to ask you about
that. Did he do it yet? No,
he didn't do it yet. But I was asking if they could get it to me so I could start putting it in rotation. You know, I'd love to like start putting it on all our social medias. You know, so but yeah, you know, and the reason I say that I'm seeing you guys so much, and we have so many shows coming up before Memorial Day. Like we might be doing double duty. Like I'm going to talk to you guys after the show.
We'll figure it out.
A couple guests that you know, we're doing favors for by doing extra shows, but also ones that I want to have on the show. And it's like that limited Kickstarter time, you know, to try to, you know, and I'm excited about the night. We want
to make sure we take care of our friends and have people on, but we also need like our own schedule and our
absolutely, dude.
Yeah. So it's really tough. And then if there's like a conflict, like very recently, and people aren't aware because we didn't promote it, but we very recently had a conflict of interest where it was actually in our better interest to just cancel than to do the show.
Yeah. And we canceled right before any of the promos went out. That I always release Twitter promos, so we decided to cancel it before I even put those, so people didn't really know that we had a show coming up. But
then later that week,
we ended up going live that week with Mike Diodato, which was huge for us, you know.
So everything happened
you
for
missed
a reason.
That one, Harry, but it was.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was a personal matter. I was under contract negotiations for the show, so but we settled it. So I'm back. We agreed to a price.
We worked it out.
Yeah,
we worked everything out.
Right.
We were holding out for that sweet ICR.
Right. Exactly. Right. But I'm glad we settled it. You know,
we only pay in action figures.
Yeah, we settled out of court.
Right. You guys got me back in.
Mighty Mascots issues and Amy's pop culture prints. That's
It's
the
perfect.
extent of our payment.
Mm.
No, but what I was saying, I'm really excited about this tonight's guest. Is a guy that actually has a very successful YouTube channel where he reviews and like does playthroughs for like board games and tabletops.
Is he over or under the 1,000 mark?
Dude, he's going for like 17,000, I think. Yes.
You know what? I was talking to
And here we are with our measly 8 something.
No, dude, we're almost at 1,000.
Are we?
Yeah, we're at 967. We're getting close. We're getting close to that 1,000 mark.
I was actually
Which is
playing
great.
in a card game recently on Friday. I was playing cards with like some friends, and so I kind of told them we do this show, whatever. And I was like, oh, we told them. I told them how many subscribers we have, whatever. And I'm like, oh, actually, this kid that we also know mutually, this kid Jeremy, has an automotive site, and he has like around 86,000 subscribers. So it's pretty.
Well, it depends what you're doing. Like, I mean,
because people have cars, then things go wrong. So I mean, it makes sense that they would tune in.
Well,
and
I look at it this way: we could be at that level if all of a sudden me and Johnny was just like, "Oh, I fucking hate this," and like if we just did like the outrage stuff, which we don't do, and I think it's a little more harder of a slog to get people to watch,
right? Because we're not slandering people and we're not positioning politics, and we're just a couple of guys who love comic books, and we like to promote people and get the word out there. That's it. Indie Comics Relay. We are what we say we are. We don't fucking rope you in. We don't rope a dope with some dumb shit. You just fucking play it straightforward. Indie Comics, mostly self-published, coming at you live Monday nights. That's the business.
No car repairs.
How's that for a promo?
Save that one. Save that.
Yeah, right. No, but I was gonna say too, but we do have fans that like us and watch our show and everything. But I feel like people love more the drama stuff than the more informational stuff. But we have our fans, So
yeah, and I like the fans that we have. Those people are tight. They're here all the time. We love y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest, and then we'll zip through the comments real quick, and then
sounds good to me.
We'll get to know Mark. So tonight's guest is Mark Maia. Hey Mark,
what's up, guys?
Going?
Hey, all right.
Thanks for having me.
To have you here, man. I don't know if you listened to us backstage about our struggles with YouTube. I mean, was it like that for you in the early days too, or?
Yeah, there's always that bit of pressure when you're trying to grow your channel, and you're always comparing yourself to somebody else, or you're doing better than them. You just got to let that go. And everybody's got their theories, like, oh, you got to do it every day at this, or the same day every week at this time, etc., whatever.
Yeah.
I've tried everything, and it's really, you just get the right thing that triggers, and that's what's gonna bring in the subs. Because I've got a video out right now for how to play. It's like a 6-video series for this huge, massive game, and it's by itself, I think it's brought in like 300 subs, and I've barely put on any videos recently because basically I was burnt out. Like December hit and I was burnt out, and then I went on vacation. I came back. I think I did 2 more videos since.
Yeah,
but I would, and I have the Kickstarter, so I've taken a bit of a break.
Yeah.
But
how long have you been doing YouTube? Out of curiosity.
6 years, I think.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we've only been at it a couple of years, so so then that's awesome to hear.
We just haven't really scaled. We've just inched.
Well, I feel like we get about 20 subs a month, maybe 25, something like that. But it's a slow moving needle, you know.
Yeah.
Well, but we also then get guests like Diodato or Mark Maia here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But if I hear, and let me know if this is true, Mark. Once you hit the 1,000 mark, the algorithm starts to work for you a little bit. Did you notice a change when you hit 1,000?
You'll have certain bursts throughout that you'll get yeah, you can't stop me now, and then something's stopping me now.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, I'm on fire again. Like, oh,
You
somebody
mean
put
it's
out my
not
fire.
Valhalla after 1,000?
That sounds like weight loss to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
A little bit,
Except it's the weight you want to keep. It's the
Yeah,
stub weight.
Bags
Absolutely.
of cash and subscribers.
Yeah, exactly. Before we start getting into the interview, I just want to zip through the comments here real
Let's
quick.
do it.
We got Roland with us tonight.
Roland.
Good to see you, man. And he said that's not a no. I don't know what that was about.
Don't recall
We
what that
were
was
talking
about. If you want to chime back in for context.
JD Rosario's here, and
Hey,
surprised
JD.
Johnny is live and not suffering from WrestleMania hangover.
Oh, that happened already.
No, yeah. Cody got to finish his story. Cody Rhodes.
Oh, so
Nice.
he beat Hogan as far as wins go now, or what?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he relieved Roman Reigns of his 1,300 plus day title run.
Okay, so he didn't beat Hogan then.
No. Hulk Hogan's still out there terrorizing people,
Thank goodness.
making America great again.
Nice.
Roland also said, "Ooh, Salacrup. Yeah, Jim will
Yeah,
be there.
that'll
I'm
be
still
cool,
working
man.
out the details, but I haven't put it on the website yet until we
Yeah,
have
that's
a
dope.
signed deal." And Amy said, "It isn't easy being busy. That's for sure."
That's a fact.
JD said, "As a New Yorker, I do think I am allowed to the show." LOL.
No, you're allowed. You're allowed. All
Oh,
are
and look at
welcome.
this. Roland said, "Let's play of board games and
Let's plays of board games and tabletop. I would
yeah.
assume, Mark, that's a yes, right?
Yes.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah, definitely check out Mark's channel. We'll link it in the chat here in a little bit.
Nice. We got a little bit of
And,
crossover here. Kind of like
yeah,
a little bit of
absolutely.
tabletop gaming.
Yep. Scary Good said you bros are close to 1,000. Teach your boomer friends how to subscribe. Don't worry, I do. There's times like I
want those people.
like,
maybe.
hey, can I check out your phone? Yep, and go right to YouTube and subscribe.
how
Johnny,
do I
start
turn
doing
this
that.
off again?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the comments we'll get? No, we've got to do some quality control here.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
absolutely.
We
Amy
don't-
says to make outrage thumbnails with googly eyes.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. We'll
Yeah,
let them
right?
start.
And Roland said, two dudes talking shop isn't appealing to YouTube's algorithms. Yeah,
Looks
tell me
fine by
about
me.
it. The method to succeeding at YouTube is deliberately opaque. Yeah, no, it's true. But I think you have to put in the time like anything else. It's like you know what I mean? Like in order, you can't just have an overnight success. No one does, So.
Well, unless the great YouTube wizard that's behind the curtain just picks your channel and he just has to flip a switch, and all of a
that
sudden you're just
switch
a
and the
success.
algorithm helps
Yeah,
you.
Yeah,
But
he needs to make that
yeah, so
wizard.
Mark too, so you have not only are you like a YouTuber, but you also working on a comic as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. The So-Called Living, my first one.
Yeah,
Nice.
I can't wait. We'll dive into the Kickstarter in a little bit, but have you been into comics all your life, or?
I started collecting comics when I was 13.
Okay.
And I tried before then, but I just knew I liked comics. I'd watch whatever comic related cartoons or things I could find on TV. But when I bought comics, I picked up I remember it was a Daredevil issue. It was the first comic book I bought. I can't remember what it was. It was Daredevil, and I think Typhoid Mary was on top of him, and he was like in a sewer or something. That was the cover.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, I don't get it. This is boring. Because as a kid, like when I'm like 10 years old, 11 years old, trying to read this comic, and I was like, I don't get it. It's like, bro, it was too adult for me at the time. Like I didn't understand it. And
I know
then-
which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's the Ann Nocenti issues with John Romita Jr. Yeah, that storyline was so, if I remember right, it was so long. And if you try to jump in the middle of it, you'd be like, what the heck is going on
And
here?
that was the first book I was reading.
That's
So
funny.
then when a comic book shop opened up like near my house, I decided to pop in and I was like, oh, this place is cool. And I hit it off with the owner. Like we were just chatting as a 13-year-old talking to a grown-up. And I just had to cross the street to get to it.
Yeah.
So it was great. And then I picked up Spider-Man #1 Torment. That was
the Todd McFarlane one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was my
that's
first.
great.
I read that and I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, so you got in like right at that that 90s era, right? When
Oh.
when it was like the comics were probably arguably at their biggest at that point, I think.
Yeah, it was before Image started,
Yep.
when all those Image guys were like at their peak and they were
Yep.
like just it all over the place, like just
Oh, man,
making
I remember that time
other
well.
companies awesome. And
Yep.
then they all bailed to go do Image, and then Image was like awesome.
Yep.
So
And have you stayed collecting through all the years, or?
yeah, I stopped for a bit. I took 2 hiatuses from collecting, and when I got back the first time, I can't remember how long I was gone the first time, but when I came back, it was when Wolverine Origins started again.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So I collected for years. I took like a year or 2 off or whatever, and I went back and it was I walked into the comic book store. It was a Wednesday, and I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And they're like, "Ah, it's the Origin of Wolverine." I was like, "Oh, I'll take this." So that was the first book that when I got back into it. But at that point, I already had like, I think at that point I had probably like 15 bins of comics, 20 bins of comics, and now I got like 46.
Oh, nice.
So I kept buying them, and then I stopped buying physicals. I went just digital just because I was like, I'm buying too many. I don't know where these are gonna go. I'm back on the physical train.
I bought like bulk copies of Origin #1 because I had like some
did you really?
notion that like, okay, this is a milestone book, right? Kind of like the way Death of Superman, things of that nature. So I was like, this is a milestone book. Got it graded, whole 9 yards. Still not as valuable as I hoped when I was a kid,
Yeah,
but I enjoy it nonetheless.
I'd say hold on to that one. That one might in a few, 10 years or so be something.
I don't know about you guys, but when you flip through your back catalog of books and you're like, oh, I bought this, and you pull it out and it's like Umbrella Academy #1. You know what I mean? It's like you gave it a shot back in the day, never even fathoming it would become a valuable issue or a TV show or anything of that nature,
Well, that's why I always say, like, when you got to love comics first before you're the collector.
Yep.
Like you gotta and that's how you find out like when something's gonna be hot, because you're keyed in on like those creators, and whenever they do something, you're like jump on it,
Yep.
like so, and then those books end up being valuable when the rest of the world catches up,
Right.
Like most recently, that was with Ultimate Spider-Man #1. Like I've been following Hickman for a long time, so I knew that book was gonna be a hot thing before the rest of the world even knew it,
Sure.
And,
Well, most of Hickman's Marvel run has been like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like look at back issues of Infinity or, that was a Time Runs Out, not Time Runs Out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but these back issues are going for collected for a good
crazy
amount of
amounts
money
of
right now.
money.
Yeah, exactly.
His
I love the
Avengers
Ultimate
run,
Universe.
all that stuff.
Ultimate Universe is awesome.
It is. Are you reading Ultimate Spider-Man?
The new stuff, yeah, and the
Yeah.
old stuff. I was in it from the back then too, and so like somehow I managed to end up with 2 first appearances of Miles Morales in my collection. I was going
nice.
through. I was like, oh, I got 2.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm
Oh,
going
that's
through
cool.
cataloging my comics at the.
That's
at
a
the moment.
huge book now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
So-
big
Well,
book.
there's a lot of key things in that Ultimate run. I mean, and even the more stuff that's coming into the MCU is probably going to be picked from in the catalog. Like I already have a feeling in my heart that they're going to go with the Ultimate Reed Richards, who becomes the Master. Or is it the
Mhm.
Master? I forget.
No, the Maker.
But,
the Maker.
the maker. That's right. And so that that Fantastic Four Ultimate run is going to be worth a pretty penny.
Yeah, absolutely. It's stuff like that like hits, that you're not thinking of,
And I was just buying that week to week because I was digging the story, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure
right.
you're in the same boat,
That's
Mark,
what I'm
right?
saying. You're gonna
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it first and
Yeah.
foremost, and then if it becomes valuable, that's just a bonus on top of it.
Mm.
Well, that's where we got Marvel Zombies. Was Ultimate Fantastic Four.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
you're
right.
right. Exactly. Yeah, isn't that the first appearance was in that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
That's
right.
correct,
That's one of those things that I discovered it myself. It wasn't because it was popular. I was just reading Ultimate Fantastic Four, and like nobody else I know was reading Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And the way they like, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who has, it's been out for years, but it's like, Reed Richards is talking to, I think it's another Reed Richards, right? Another
the
dimension.
Council of
and he
Reeds,
doesn't
yep.
know it's the zombie Reed Richards or a zombie
Yeah.
world that he's talking to or something. There's like a twist. And then you're like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So,
stuff was great,
love
man. And the Ultimate stuff's been really good. And like the new ones that are out now, and then previously the Ultimate stuff was really good, It's kind of weird to see it like being more successful, or not even, I'd say as successful as the first time around, which is cool,
Yeah. For sure. Well, because also it was a way to reinvent the characters too, right? Like Goblin didn't really work if you wanted to kind of modernize it, right? Just having like the Goblin design from yesteryear look kind of goofy in some regards to the modern audience or to maybe a younger eye, right? So from there, they had to find a way to update it, make it more extreme, more very Mountain Dew, and it worked.
The original Ultimate Universe was great because it brought in it gave itself an excuse to retell origins and bring in new readers at a point where like these books have already existed for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And bring in new readers and they can grow with these characters from the beginning, but then they trash that universe. And now I like what they've done when they brought it back, because they're not retelling the same story.
No,
they've put those characters in a different situation. They've made them different characters. So like what kind of person is Spider-Man going to be? Because he's not the same person that he was when he got the powers the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I love that angle too. And I think that's why it's so successful. And same thing with like, I haven't read the Ultimate X-Men or Ultimate Black Panther, but I know because Ultimate Spider-Man was so hot, like the #1 of Ultimate X-Men was already going for $30 before it even came out, which was crazy to me. Like, it's amazing. Like no one even knew if it was good or not. And it was just like already $30. Crazy stuff.
I haven't read mine yet, but I have it upstairs.
I hear it's like, because it's that new, talented, that new creator, Peach Momoko. I heard it's very horror manga. It's like, like it's got like teen suicide and all this other crap in it, but like, which is kind of like, like a manga-esque, like one like what's that? I'm thinking, what's that horror manga, that famous one that, is it Tomu or something? There's something.
Uzumaki?
Maybe it might be that one. Like,
what's the concept?
That's what they said. It's sort of like that, like in that vein, But
cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. But anyways, back to Mark.
We digress.
We can go back. We can go into comic shop talk all day long on this channel.
But Mark, you're a big collector with board games too, right? How many?
Yeah.
How many do you have of those? I heard like a huge number.
If I had to guess, somewhere between 500, 600 different board games. Yeah.
Wow. Really? Where do you store all that?
Right.
I have a giant room in the back. Actually, see those wood planks?
Yeah.
That's actually a hidden room.
Oh,
you push it aside. It's not finished. It's supposed to be varnished, but you push that aside. And it's a hidden door, and it's full of board games. And then I have literally towers of board games just off camera and shelves everywhere. So like that's a black shelf around the corner. Board games just off screen. Board games.
Oh my god! Dude.
I like that you have a bat cave for your board games, man. That's pretty dope.
That is pretty dope.
And everybody
wanted a secret room, and when you're an adult, you're like, I'm building my own basement. I'm gonna put a secret room in it.
Do it.
I love it.
That's not secret anymore, but
I was gonna say too, like, is it tough, like, when on a gaming night to pick a game out of their, like, massive amounts of games?
It's not tough because I don't remember how to play most of these, so we play whatever one I just learned recently. Because like, I can hold the rules to a book for about a week, maybe 2 max, and then I'm done. So if it's a project I'm currently working on, that's what we're playing. If I'm doing how to play for this game,
and then you go back and watch your own YouTube videos on how to play.
Exactly. My plan is when I retire, I'm gonna watch my own videos back and just play those.
Yeah. Well, it's great show prep for you, though, right? In that regard.
Yeah.
Roland said Hasbro must love you. Yeah, I mean, the companies send you games, right?
They do now. Yeah, I bought a lot. Most of them I bought, but recently I've stopped buying so many Kickstarters. Not because I'll support smaller ones and not so much not so many of the bigger ones, but I still do. I had to cut back because like the amount that was coming in the house was just way more than I can keep up with. And not to mention so many of the games that were coming in were games I had to do videos for. So on top of the ones I bought that were coming in, other ones were being shipped to me. So the ones I was paying for, I couldn't play. And then I couldn't get to them, and now I have no room. So I'm being a little pickier now. on
Yeah,
which
you have
one.
to be, or else you get overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Like,
'cause
For
I
sure.
think one year I had like 36 board games I backed on Kickstarter in 1 year.
Oh wow.
No
Like
kidding.
total, I have over 160 projects backed, but
Wow.
1 year it was like 36 board games or something like that. It was ridiculous, and they all showed up like 2 years later, and it was just like box after box after box.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's
I-
kind of
my-
like a little bit like my Kickstarter stack. I got a Kickstarter stack right there.
Oh
if
yeah.
you-
I got a
My cur-
question. What's Mark's current go-to board game? Is it like you said, just whatever's the current one?
Well,
that-
the one game that we keep going back to is Terraforming Mars,
Terraforming,
and
Mars,
that's a
okay.
popular one among a lot of board gamers. So it's not like if you're in the hobby board game, it's a popular game there. It's not like a niche little like, oh, I've never heard of that. Like if you're in the hobby, you've heard of Terraforming Mars. If you're not,
Okay.
then you haven't heard of most of the games
Okay,
in the board game.
I'll have to
hobby.
look that one up because I'm not familiar with that one. So
It's
I'll have to
fantastic.
All right.
Terraforming Mars is fantastic. It's not the prettiest box.
Okay.
I bought it. It's very brown, and the art is very Google image search copy paste.
Okay.
And it's not the prettiest, but it's so good. It's so good.
Okay.
That's cool.
Amy, take
Sometimes
note
the
of
best
that one.
things are like that. Yeah, where it's don't judge it by the package, right?
I did. That's why it sat in its box for like 6 months for actually playing it.
But look at
But
what
you gotta
discovered.
love
though.
a pleasant surprise like that, though.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, like pull it out thinking like, oh god, I gotta review this crap, and then all of a sudden the game is awesome. Like it.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Do you have Mark? Do you have like a preference? I mean, do you prefer like an actual board game, an RPG, card based? Like, is there anything particular that you lean towards?
I like deck building games because
Magic?
they kind of give me that Magic vibe without having to buy all the cards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause there's the collectible card games like Magic, and then there's the ones that are all encompassed in the box you buy already, right? So you just get like tons of game cards in the box, and the process of the game is you spend cards to buy cards to build a deck while you're playing live, and then your discard pile, unlike Magic, your discard pile keeps getting shuffled back in. So
Like
the
a
cards you
Marvel
buy go to your
Flux?
discard pile. I haven't played in many of the Flux games. I did years ago because they're one of those highly marketed games, like they're everywhere. So I don't play a lot of those.
Right,
But
right.
Marvel does have Marvel Legendary,
Okay.
which is it's put up by Upper Deck. That's an excellent deck building game. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Do you
wear-
dabble with
oh,
Magic
sorry.
at all? Sorry, Ari.
I played Magic for a long time, long time, and I had to stop. Like I haven't really played it in probably like 15 years. I did dabble in Arena a bit, and then I dropped like $200 one day, and I was like, "How did I get here again? How did I get here
How
again?"
did this happen?
Again, I'm like, man, this time they're not even real cards. So
Yeah.
I'm like, mind you, I thought they did an amazing job with Arena. That's kind of like the game I wanted. That's the online Magic I wanted for a while.
Yeah.
They did such a good job with that.
Did you have a color that you lean towards with a deck?
Oh, I go through phases.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I like making the white purity decks, and I was like, those are nice. And
I have a
then,
white angel deck that I like to say is unbeatable, but I've been beaten a few times.
I try not to play a lot of red
Mhm.
because it's just so like direct damagey. But I do have one red deck that I called Fast and the Furious. I named all my decks after movies, and I made custom boxes for them.
Yeah.
So at Fast,
I
and
love
Furious.
it.
And it was a
That's
bunch of
awesome.
like ball lightnings and all kinds of things. Just like if your creature came out, I was going to kill it. And I had a
Yeah.
bunch of like haste creatures. They'd come out and just roll over you. That was
Yeah.
the whole premise of
I
it.
had Platinum Angel, which my friends hated. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's like
don't remember
you know,
any
you
game, but-
can't lose the game basically, and the card's indestructible. So like
Angels are
people
so good.
hated that. Unless you had like a exile, you couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, that's great. Roland's asking, how about games with miniatures like Warhammer? Is that something you get into?
So as far as tabletop games, actually a friend of mine, he was Warhammer champion for 2 years in a row back in early 2000s.
Oh.
And he's also a really good miniatures painter. So what's the magazine? Is it White Dwarf? He
yeah.
so they used to send him briefcases, like these padded briefcases. He'd paint them and put them in, or like put them in the briefcase, send them. They take photos and they'd send his minis back to him because his minis were so good. He's such a good painter. So they'd feature his minis on the covers and in the magazines all the time. So that was great. He tried to teach me. Now he's a great guy, terrible teacher. So I never got into it because he's a terrible teacher. So I like the tabletop games, but I don't have, my group doesn't play those. So the most I can get my group to play, that's like a tabletop miniatures game, would be like the board game equivalent, which is kind of like area control, dudes on a map type of game, where it's Red Rising is one of them, which I really like. It's you pick your clan, you play with your clan, and it's the equivalent of how I mentioned deck building game is like Magic, but you don't have to buy everything. Everything's in the box.
Yeah.
That's kind of what these games are. You don't have to buy the individual characters. They're all in the box, but throughout the game, you like do things to earn them to get them out, and you sacrifice things to get them out. So it's a little more strategic based on who you get out. You earn points to buy these monsters. You put them on the table. So, but the closest to that I've gotten as far as my friends that let me play tabletop games was it was an X-Wing. That was the closest I got to that, because I had one friend that played X-Wing, and he got a bunch of people at the office, and I was like, I'm in, because I don't have any groups to play Warhammer, and I have a thing about playing with going out to play with strangers, at things, and like I feel uncomfortable. I like with you, even talking with guys a little bit, like if you guys, hey, come over and play, I'd feel more comfortable already now because I talked to you guys for a little bit. But that initial, barrier to entry it makes me anxious. I get anxiety, so I don't just go to the local places. I can't. I admire people that can do that, but I can't do it. I need to be in my comfort zone.
For sure.
Well, that, and you don't know like how people react to things. Like, you could get a guy that, like, if he loses, he's flipping the table over.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid to be the one flipping the table and pissing everybody off. But my Magic games with my friends, like me and Rick and my buddy Jay, we used to play all the time Tuesday nights, and it was fucking heated. We get heated, but we were so into it because we were just like investing all this money into these dope cards. And like I got into a routine where I figured out on eBay, if you're looking for like a key card that's very expensive on its own, you could buy it cheaper per card in a 4-pack. So what I was doing is I was buying the 4-pack of this key card, reselling 3 and keeping 1. You know what I mean? And I got into like this routine, and it was just like me, the post office, eBay. We were in this like torrid relationship. Magic.
I'm a poker player. I don't know.
eBay was a big thing for me too.
What's that, Mark?
eBay was a big thing for me too for when it came to Magic, but I did it a little differently. I'd look for
What'd you do?
I look for all the cards that have ridiculous low bids, like 5 cents. And I was like, I'm putting bids on everything. All these rares that are like 5 cents, like, and I won a few of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, you actually sent them to me?
Yeah.
For so like I got those for a penny.
Yeah,
that's
wild.
crazy.
We're all
And then
just
you
looking for
paid
that
more in
black orchid at
postage,
a
right?
yard sale somewhere, right?
Yep. I had a black orchid in this house.
No way, really?
I was selling it for somebody else.
Damn. Did you end up selling it, or?
Yeah, I did. I can't remember
What was the
it sold.
value?
I honestly can't remember.
Can't say
what it
anything?
sold for. No, I can't remember. It's because I sold a few things for this guy, and he sold things in packages.
Okay.
Like it was like a bunch of things. So it wasn't a black orchid by itself.
Oh,
it was like
bundled.
a bunch of stuff. So I can't remember what the bundles went for. It was, oh my God, it was probably 22, 23 years ago is when I sold that.
Got you. So I actually did something similar with comics. So when the first Spider-Man movie came out, I assembled kind of like a pack of key issues. And so I had the first appearance of the Green Goblin, the death of the Green Goblin, the first appearance of Green Goblin 2, which was Harry, and then the 9/11 issue with the black cover. And I just basically assembled everything together. Then the first issue, the first appearance of Green Goblin, was in tough shape. But like, I think I spent maybe like $400 across the 4 books. And I ended up going to eBay when the movie hit, because I figured like that's going to be peak time, and I got $900 for it. So it was a pretty good turnaround,
Yeah.
I'm sure if I held on to it, I probably could have done more, but whatever,
No, that's a good gamble though. Like, you never know,
Right. You never know.
But got some good some questions in here too. Someone's asking us a Kickstarter question,
Let's do it.
Which is interesting. They're asking if is $3 for digital and $5 for physical okay for a 28-page paranormal investigation comic? I would say,
It seems pretty low.
yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say
well-
like 10 might be better for the physical and 5 for the digital. That's what I would do.
Based on my research, what I was looking, because I'm a research guy as far as like, it's my first Kickstarter. I was like, I'm gonna go look at what a bunch of other Kickstarters do, and the odd comic book at 28 pages, that's including cover as well, is ran anywhere from $10 to $15 per issue. And that's why I put mine at $12.50. That's $12.50 Canadian, so that's like $8.50 to you guys.
Yeah. And plus you get the shipping, right? So
Yeah,
like,
well, and I kept the shipping fairly low compared to some other channels I've seen. So across the states, our shipping's $12 Canadian.
that's not bad.
Yeah,
So,
not
so,
bad at
yeah,
all.
so
like
20 bucks and you
$8
get you get the book and the shipping.
I always subscribe to, and I think this, I've only done one campaign, but I fully subscribe to the idea that you offer free shipping and you just bake it into the cost. You know what I
It's
mean?
not
Because
bad,
that way
yeah.
it gives you a little bit more to inflate the price. You could, play with it a little bit more. You don't have to do it for digital. So that's another thing too, where you can like appropriately price digital. You offer free shipping. The physical's a little bit more. You might drive more people to the digital release. And in turn, that's easy for fulfillment. So those digital ones, you want to sell that just as much. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And in digitals, for my research, it was like 5 to 7.
Yes.
So that's what I look at. So I'd say Matthew's going a little low. I did see some. I can't remember what run it was. It was an awesome book, and it was very thick, beautiful art, $6. But that was one of those cases where it was. I'm pretty sure it was somebody who was tight with some factory in China that was putting this out, because it was phenomenal. Because like there's a lot of things you can do in China that really low cost,
Yeah.
and the amount of artwork and the quality of this book did not make sense for $6. You couldn't produce it here for $6.
Right.
So,
And how many pages was it? Do you
it
remember?
was like 72 pages. It was like this
That's
big, like,
crazy. Yeah.
huge thing. And I remember I asked a buddy of mine who's run a few Kickstarters. Like, he's had successful Kickstarters, and he does well, like a lot better than I do. He's his run for like 40 to 80 grand that he makes. So, but he's got he's got a following because he's an artist. He's a great artist. He's got a following on Instagram. But I told him about this book. He's like, don't buy that. He's like, that's just not possible. He's like, don't buy it, as in,
But
like,
yeah.
don't believe it. It's just not
Yeah,
possible.
that's wild. Like, unless you're making, I mean, who knows what the guy's intent was? Maybe he just wanted to get it in people's hands.
I
or
honestly
something.
think it was probably somebody who is in China and has access to these things, like, the studios that do their art, great art, really cheap, factories super cheap. And because, like, I actually have a friend who owns a factory in China. Acquaintance, he owns a factory in China, like he's from there, and his factory is the second biggest factory that produces board games in China.
wow.
So, and their costs are ridiculously cheap.
Oh, I can
Like,
imagine,
it's
yeah.
a book here that would be like $2 to $3. For them, it's like 60 to 90 cents for us to
Wow.
cost
Yeah.
difference there.
Yeah, I
That's
printed my
huge.
first graphic novel over there, and yeah, it was something ridiculously. It was like low. It was like for 150 pages. I think it was like about $2 or something a book.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2012.
This is why everything's produced in China.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
So-
you can't beat their prices anywhere.
One testament I could make to ordering product, right, direct from China versus through a US provider, regardless as to where the stuff's actually made. We're talking about how you order it, quality control, right? Ordered mugs through the mail, did a direct thing through Alibaba in China, got full shipment of mugs, and you have to buy in bulk. And when you go through Alibaba, that's the downside to that. Full shipment of mugs, like maybe an eighth of them ships, wrong mugs entirely. Like it was like supposed to be for Surrounded by Death, and it turned out to be like, happy anniversary mugs. You know what I mean? So like there's
You had
quality
Happy
control issues.
Anniversary ones mixed in with your Surrounded by
Yes,
Death.
yeah, exactly. So it was like you don't, and then when I went through a company that was like a US company that did, quality control and whatnot, and I got the shipment of mugs, and sure enough, everything's great. Everything worked out good, printed nice, looks good, no chips on the mugs. And actually, coincidentally, the mugs that between the two, and I've had them obviously the older ones longer, but going through the dishwasher, these newer ones have held up, whereas the older ones, those images are fading, they're gone. You know what I mean? So
Johnny,
there's a certain level of quality control there when you're going through a factory versus and being there versus like say ordering from a different source. What were you gonna say, Harry?
so do you think the anniversary people got your Surrounded by Death mugs?
I hope so. I really hope so.
But that's
Awesome.
a cool idea though. I like the paranormal investigation comic. I like the way that sounds. Up my alley.
Yeah, be
so
curious
good
to
luck
find out
with
more.
that, Matthew,
that's
and
pretty cool.
hopefully our feedback will help you figure it out for Kickstarter.
Come on the show and promote the book.
Yeah. Dr. Mask is with us tonight.
Hey, Dr. Mask.
Also, he said CCG crack for non-drug users.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The grading process for
Absolutely.
comics is in fact addicting and is like crack.
And then Roland said that awkward feeling of being the new guy at a hobby shop, unfamiliar with everybody's play style. Yeah,
Fair.
that's true.
I know that vibe.
Awkward's my middle name actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel very comfortable being awkward. Like I'm always very socially awkward wherever I go. So I'm used to it by now.
So do you feel awkward when you fit in, Harry?
Yeah, actually, I'm like some shoe must be dropping at some point.
Something's not right.
Yeah, right.
It's like
My spidey sense goes off. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Mark, I had a question. I mean, you wear many different hats. Board game designer. You did that at one point. I think didn't you create miniatures too with your friend? You do unboxing and things. So what title would you call yourself? Like, what would you say you are?
When people ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I'm a video game designer because that's what I've done the most. So I've worked in the video game industry for 24 years.
Oh, no kidding.
And like I was a creative director, I was an art director, but you can't really tell people you're a creative director when there's no team that you're currently directing. Because I left the studio, so I'm doing freelance stuff now. So for the last 2 years, I've been like a freelance video game designer. So that's what I tell them, because it's easier than telling them, oh, I design video games, but when in the studio, I'm usually like the creative director, or on my spare time, I have a YouTube channel where I do this and this video, and then any spare time I have between that, I write a comic book that I'm running on Kickstarter. So it's just because it's a lot of those don't seem like, at least in my circles of my adults that I grew up with, they don't look at many of those like real jobs. Like, what do you do? Write comic books? Okay, what do you really do? Even if I say design video games, they're like, they're like,
Right?
so not a doctor, architect, or construction worker, real jobs.
Yeah. I don't know. I find it cool that you worked in video games personally.
It is
you know?
cool.
Yeah, right.
But like my family's all like old school Europeans. Like they don't
Yeah.
mind it.
Mine too.
Yeah, so they just don't get what I do. I don't even know how to explain it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my parents are the same. Like, oh, there's Keith making his little funny books,
The
like
funny
it's like
books
that kind of thing, right?
So you know what though? So actually, can I just tell a real quick story about that? Wanted to share.
Absolutely.
So after the last convention season, right? And my family's the same way. They're very blue collar. The idea of making money from comics just doesn't make sense to them, right? And I understand that to an extent, unless you're really hitting it hard and doing it professionally. If you're doing it as a side hobby, it's not really something you can live on very well. Anyways, all that aside, after the last convention season, it was pretty good. I had a really good SDCC. I had a really good Terrificon. It was my dad's birthday, so we had like a little surprise party thing at a steakhouse for him. Very expensive bill. And when it came time to pay that, it was on me. And I was so happy that I was able to use convention earnings
Cool.
to pay for that. And and when I paid for it, I go, I just want everybody at this table to know that comic books paid for this.
That's great.
And that was the best part of it. I was like the tiramisu. That was the dessert of the whole thing, was letting everybody know that comic books did this. A bunch of blue collar, a mechanic at one end, a construction worker at the other, an electrician at the other end, and all of them blue collar guys. And they heard me say, comics bought this exquisite dinner you just had.
That's awesome, dude. I love stories like that. So that's great. Thanks for sharing.
Well,
man.
it's kind of how I felt too, because when I went to Greece, to visit my family there, like everybody there, and my family lives in the south near Athens, kind of. They're all like firefighters. They work in coal mines. They're farmers, So when I shook their hands, I'd be shaking like very calloused, strong hands, and like I have like these little dainty, soft hands, like, Harry, what do you do for work? I'm like, I'm a graphic designer and I do this with my mouse, and I push some buttons, I was like almost embarrassed to tell them, what I do, but like, whatever. I mean, whatever works.
Yeah, right. What was I going to say here? We got some new people here. DM Ray, thanks for joining us. Look at this, everyone on everything. Huge fan of Board Game Coffee and So-Called Living. Nice. Nice. Here for you, Mark. That's good. That's great. Roland's asking what studios you worked with. Anything in Montreal or Vancouver?
No, nothing in Montreal or Vancouver. Actually, most of my career was in 3 different studios. Sandbox Studios was a very small studio that I started working at, and that was only for like 2 years. They got bought out by Dice, guys who make Battlefield. So I worked on Battlefield for a while.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, I co-founded a company called Big Blue Bubble, and their biggest claim to fame is My Singing Monsters, which is an app game, which is like an iPhone app, and it's been going on for 10 years now. But that's the studio I left, was the one I co-founded. That was where and now my contract work is actually, it's an NDA, so I can't actually tell you where I'm working currently. But
no, that's awesome, dude. That's really cool. I always love talking. We've had a few people on this show in the past that have done video games, but also have made comics too. Like God, I'm blanking on their names, but they did that wrestling comic, Johnny. Remember?
I do remember that.
WrestleTopia. I think they worked on Leisure Suit Larry, and I forget what that war game.
The original Leisure.
No, it was a new one. PlayStation 2. It was where it's like Larry's son or something, and it was during college.
He had a full head of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they worked on
Kelly.
What's that?
So I was gonna say Kelly Bender, indie comic creator, started in indie comics and then ended up getting a job at Ubisoft writing over there. So it's like, cool. You can easily pivot between,
Yeah, it seems like it goes hand in hand, actually.
I heard video game writing very hard because it's a lot of content you have to put together.
There is a lot of content. I once wrote a script for this game that we put out. I honestly don't even remember what the name of the game was, because I've probably worked on 100 titles, if not over.
Wow.
So because some of them there's a range of things you do on them, different levels of projects. And in my position, I touched on a lot of projects. So before ones were done, I was jumping on another one, or I was doing 2 at once, helping. But there was one I wrote a story for, and it was like multiple branching paths everywhere. And this, the guy who was designing it had this crazy chart, and I was like, this is a lot. I was like, just so you know, I was like, I can write the story, but there's a reason. Like, he wanted a legitimate, like, choose your own path, because usually a lot of choose your own paths come back to the same point. And the reason for that is, if you do actually do a lot of choose your own paths, there's so much content that people aren't going to see, and they're going to go through it once, and then they're not going to see the rest of the stuff.
You're almost creating
it's
nother
too
game.
sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the branches, it's like, what? So this person only played through 15% of the game, and the other like 85% you just throw in the trash of story and content and art and people that we paid for. So like, because the only way they're going to experience that is by replaying the game over and over again. But anyways, I was like, okay, all right. I said my piece and I was like, I'm going to write your story. So I wrote this crazy story in a way that it all ties up no matter which path you took. It was a pain in the ass. And then I was like horribly sick for like a week more. I don't know. I was gone for over a week at the studio. I came back and people started coming into my office and they're like, hey, this part, I don't get this part of the story. And I was like, I didn't write that. And then I was like, I didn't write this. And people are like, I don't understand. I was like, I didn't write this either. I was like, where'd this come from? They're like, oh, this is what the designer gave me. I was like, let me go talk to him. So I went talk to him. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, I was inspired while you were gone. So I rewrote the script. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And he's like, and then I was like, but I put so much work into it. He's like, yeah, I know, but you figured out, I just changed the parts. You figured out how it all came together and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, all right, fine, I'm out. So I went back and then people kept coming back saying, oh, the story didn't work and this and that and the other thing. And he's like, maybe you're right. Maybe we can fix it. Can you fix this? No. I was like, no. I can't fix this. I was like, I am not fixing what you did, because not only did he change the story, but as he was changing it, he's like, oh, it was too hard to match up. So I just changed the design to match the thing. And I was like, I know it was hard. I was telling you it was hard, but you didn't seem to care when I was writing it. But now that you're writing it,
right.
you realize
I mean,
it's too hard.
so
you made less paths and you changed the path the player had to take. So I was like, I'm out.
So it's one thing to give notes on a script to go, oh, it was inspired. Maybe you could try this, try that, right? But not break your script only to go, oh, you have to fix it again. No, totally, man.
I'm not fixing that again.
So you know what? So
like
this
starting
sounds
over
like
again,
it sounds like
basically.
corporate meddling in the creative process. Would you say that was kind of
Yeah,
the
it wasn't the corporate portion of it, but that does happen.
yeah, I
That
can
definitely does happen. People who have their eye on the bottom line, like you need those people, but when they
Right.
start interfering too much with the creative people, then it's bad.
right.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what this was. This was just some overzealous designer who's not like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I got this figured out. This is my project. I think that might have been the only game he's ever designed.
I wonder why.
Wow.
I wonder why.
Yeah, me. So now you kind of answered a question I was going to ask about, like, because you wrote for video games. Like, when did you think you wanted to do a comic? Like, is that recently or?
No, well, I always wanted to do a comic book, but I thought I'd come at it as an artist.
Okay.
But
Oh,
sequential
can you
art
draw
wasn't
too,
really my thing.
Mark?
Yeah, but sequential art is not my thing. So like
Gotcha.
that, I can like I'm good. I'm more of like a one piece type of thing. So I might do like a variant cover for the next Kickstarter.
Oh,
But
cool.
sequential art, I'm too slow. Like I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and when it comes to like seeing things from different angles, like I can see it with my head. If it was a 3D model, I could do it because I'm also an animator. So I can animate things in 3D, and when I can move the camera freely. But once it comes down to like actually drawing things and on the fly, because these guys who do sequential art, they're so talented. Like Marco, the guy who does the art for So-Called Living, he's so good, and he just like tosses his stuff together, and it gives me a bunch of concept pages in a day, and I'm like, no, I can't work that fast.
So,
anyways,
sorry.
so I thought I'd do it, but it wasn't really working for me. So and nobody was going to hire me. So I gave up on that dream when I was 15. and then years later, I was like, I'm going to do this as a writer. And then I was like, as a writer, now what? So, because I actually wrote the script for So-Called Living, probably like, it's anywhere from like 14 to 16 years ago. Let's say 14.
Oh, really?
14 years.
Oh,
Yeah. So I wrote it a
okay.
long time ago.
Huh.
And yeah, so I just kind of stuck with it. I wrote it, trying to find an artist to work on it with me. That path kind of led to nowhere. So I buried it for a bit, and then I dug it up again like last year. And I decided I'm just going to hire an artist and try, instead of like hire them outright. Not that I always tried to set up a system where the artist got paid, but I was also trying to figure out, like most writers do, trying to find out like a friend artist, being like, hey, let's work on this together, like a 50-50 deal. And more 50-50, I'll give you the first like $5,000 this book makes, if that, and then we'll split it from then on. So I was trying to make it sweeten the pot because I was like, I have no money. I want to get this done. I know artists, but it just didn't work out because it was a lot of work for them to do. So they just fell off, and I understood. It was a lot of work to do because they work full time. Everybody I know works full time as an artist, and they go home and do it again. They don't want to, and the promise of something that might never turn out to be anything. So I just decided last year, I was like, I'm going to just find an artist that I pay outright, and it's going to be like an employee situation. And I was like, Marco gets paid regardless if the book makes nothing. He gets paid. He's already paid for those 2 books. So the Kickstarter, I'm trying to get paid back for the money I paid Marco and to cover the printing. So far I haven't covered either of those, but like I've made the funding goal because I put a funding goal. I was like, I'm comfortable with this for getting prints, but I'm like the Marco cost that I sunk into it, not even touching. But it's like the goal I chose was enough for me to feel comfortable to start the next Kickstarter. So the idea is help me fund this Kickstarter so I can do the next 2 books, because each Kickstarter is 2 books. Okay. So the idea is help me fund this one so I can do the next 2, and then the next 2, and then the next 2, because there's 8. So there should be 4 Kickstarters if everything goes well.
Awesome.
And like the first one's going well so far. And
I would say so. This is your first Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's going great. So actually, I wanted to rewind because you dumped a lot of info there, and there was one thing that kind of like piqued my curiosity, is that you basically, it sounds like you slept on the story a little bit for 15 years before you put action into it. Correct? I just want to confirm that. Yeah,
that's correct.
So did it transform in that time frame from when you put it to paper to when you published? Did it change? Did it evolve? Did you as a creator find that your experiences in life helped reflect your editing process of the story?
Oh, thanks, Birdhouse, for the
there you go.
But no, actually, when I read back the script, I made some changes in technology.
Okay.
Because like there's one scene I wrote in the script, because I have all the scripts written. I just wanted the books done. Sure. Because I need this to be funded so I can pay Marco. So of course, yes. But I have the scripts written, and there's a part in book 4 where there's some characters at a club, and instead of bringing a clipboard, they bring an iPad. Like at clubs, and it's like, register for a VIP program, that type of thing. Yeah. So I updated that, and I updated the way the phones look for, so iPhones are more in common, but there's actually one page you can see that I use a lot in my promotions, that one character is actually answering a landline. And it's got the cord and everything in it. But I left that in there. I was like, leave it. That guy in his apartment, he's got a landline. So I just left it. But most of the story is the same. Like I didn't change anything because I read it and I was like, actually, it's pretty good.
Nice. Well, it's just funny because it's like that's such a big window of time where you may have changed as a creator, so you may have found in the editing process you're kind of remolding things, or you know what I mean. And
I found it actually brought me back to a different me, because like I've been writing documents for so long as well, because a lot of my writing is writing game design documents, which are very exciting,
like copywriting kind of stuff, right?
No, more like game design documents that tell the programmers, because I'm not a programmer, I come at game design from an artist perspective. I started as an animator in the industry, but so I write game design documents and I work with programmers to make it happen. So the game design document is like a blueprint and a step-by-step, kind of like the equivalent of a rule book. This is how this is going to work. This is how the mechanics work. This is what the A button, B button is going to do. This is how it's going to be balanced. And there's all your charts for all your ratios. And so that's what it was like, right? And coming at it from the artistic side, I also wrote those in like kind of wrote the story into it. But they were very technical documents with a little bit of flair, but they weren't what you'd want to read in a comic book, right? It was
a manuscript. It was like a blueprint, like you would say.
Yeah. So reading the old scripts kind of brought me back, right? And I was like, this was actually really good. So I think I'm just going to build on this. I'm not going to rewrite it because I really like it.
Like the fundamental was there. Like you had the foundation was solid. Yeah.
One thing I had to fix was formatting. So somebody else could read it. That's what I changed. I changed the formatting.
So that also kind of like, and I said it before in the show, that like when you can have an idea and you can stow it away and then you can pick it up again and you're like just as jazzed about it as when you stowed it away, you know you have something there. That's like a good feeling. That's a good indicator that
It is a really good feeling.
it's something worth pursuing.
I actually got an email 3 hours before I came on this on your show, which was an email from a buddy of mine, and he was like, I let him because he read the first issue, because you can read the first issue free on
Yeah, it was good.
Global Comics. Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
You guys read it?
No, I didn't get a chance to. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't have a chance
I lo-
here.
I
I
love-
did look at it though.
I love the
Yeah.
artwork though. The artwork is very vibrant, not like morose and dark like any other
Yeah, I
vampire.
want to talk
zombie.
about that after you
And
make
it
your
gets
point,
better.
Mark.
It gets better.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
artwork
Yeah,
gets better in book 2. So
Yeah.
Marco, once he's now that he's used to the characters, he's even
Darker?
his like concepts, because he sent me a concept because he was like thinking of like book 3, right? He was like,
Okay.
because I sent him the script already. I was like, here's the and he just like scribbled something out, and I was like, even your concepts are like your roughs are so much
so-
better than they were.
It gets darker or no?
The story has some serious tones to it, but the artwork gets not darker. It's the lines are cleaner, the characters
Oh,
have
yeah,
more personality, the angles are more dynamic. He's more comfortable
That's cool.
with
Yeah,
illustrating these characters.
that's usually what
And-
happens with when you work on a book. You know, like a long line of books. You know, you get better with the illustrations and stuff.
Yeah. So what I was saying about the email was I got an email on this guy who I sent the script to back in 2012 when I was still like hammering at this, being like, I can get this done. And I sent him the script for book 1, and I think it was book 1 or book 2. He had the script for, and I sent him back in 2012. Today, that same guy who read the free digital issue, he was like, I knew this sounded familiar. He found the old email, and he was like, you sent me the script to like just like give his opinion on back in 2012. So
Well, good memory.
Oh wow.
So the dates on that are like 2012 today.
Oh, that's
Like
great.
6 o'clock.
That's fantastic.
Two things. First of all, I was very frightened by that black dot over Johnny's head. I know what that was. I thought like a bug or something on the ceiling there.
Oh, this right here.
yeah, I see what it
That's
is
the
now.
pull card for the
Yeah.
fan.
I didn't know what it was. Like a floating
distracting.
black orb. Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
No. I knew what I thought it was like a bug or something. Like an early.
It wouldn't be the first time that a ladybug didn't
Okay.
like dive bomb me
Alright.
in here. Like I get a lot of ladybugs in this
Alright,
room.
My second question is, so where did the story come from? I know it's like a older, like a 15-year-old.
The story is something that that I always just wanted to do. So I didn't. The story. Here's the thing. The story is not what I came up with. I came up with characters in a world. So I wrote background for a story for characters. So I was like, oh, I want a normal guy named Jack, and I want him in a world where like vampires and werewolves and everybody just exists with us, not like in normal movies where like they exist with the normies, but they're hidden, they live in the sewers or like in the shadows and you can't see them. Like these guys like you could be a werewolf right now. We could having a podcast, everybody knows you're a werewolf, everybody knows you're a vampire.
It's like True Blood.
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah,
yeah.
True Blood, except there's not so much in True Blood, there's still that like we don't like vampires or blah, you know, there's a
Yeah.
It's
very
more of like you found
X-Men
commonality.
racial thing, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
separation between the normal people and the vampires. But yeah, that kind of world. And so I had that in mind. So I wrote backstories for like Jack and his girlfriend Jill and Nick and Casper, who are the vampires in the first issue. And I wrote what they look like, their personalities, kind of like what's their deal, just kind of a bio for these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I found source materials for them. Like I used Lobo as reference for Nick, who's that character right there.
I can see that. I can very much see Lobo in there.
And, so I was pulling like reference of characters that matched how I saw these characters. So it's not like I was like, oh, I want to make a character like Lobo. I was like, I want to make this character, and the best way I could describe it was Lobo. So I started grabbing images, and I made myself like a chart that I could just look at and show people and be like, this is this character, this is this character, right? And then in my head, when I sat down to write this script, I was like, okay, I'm going to take Jack and Jill and I'm going to plop them in this world and let's see what happens. So as I'm writing, I just know these characters so well. I'm just typing and I'm almost discovering what's happening to them as I'm writing it myself. So that's how I get started.
Mhm.
And then after I get going, then I started plotting out, okay, where do I want this to go? So I just start like, what's going to happen to them? Like broad strokes, like this and this and this and this, and this is where it's going to end up. And then I go back and I know which broad strokes I'm going to. So look, if I told you today you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to stub your toe, you're going to break your toe, you're going to bang into the bed, you're going to break your toe, you got to go to the hospital. Then after the hospital, you got to go to the grocery store, pick up your kid, come home. That's the rough loop. And then I was like, okay, well, what happens if Jack would get up in the morning and stub his toe? How would he react? He's like, oh, and then he's got to go here, and he'll call his friends because he's useless on his own. He doesn't have a car because I wrote that in the bio. So then it just all kind of starts unfurling.
Yeah.
So I don't even like know how they're going to react. I know it's going to happen, but I don't know how it happens.
So,
You-
oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on, Harry.
Well, besides Lobo, like, are any of these characters based on anybody else you know, or?
Yeah, this thing is like, I've used this before. I said like, oh, he's based on Lobo. He's not based on Lobo. I come up with a character and I was like, oh, Lobo's the closest reference to that guy. And that's a kind of like a trick you do in the video game industry when you're trying to learn a mechanic. Most of the mechanics have already been done. There's like very few unique things. Like first person shooters all use the same mechanics, right? But you can even but it's easy to, when you're designing a game, being like, oh, when they jump, it feels like Halo. It's how Halo jumps, right? When they, when they die, we're going to do a death cam like Sniper Elite. You know what I mean? Like that type, or Mortal Kombat. Like we can reference those things. So that's how I communicate the characters as shortcuts, right? So I can say Nick is like Lobo, but since that's what I used to say, but now I'd say Nick is more like Butcher from the boys, because Butcher didn't exist when I originally
More
wrote
relevant,
it.
right? Yeah,
Like,
more relevant.
he might have existed in the comic books. I never read the boys' comic books, but for me, he never existed until the show came out.
Right.
So I started comparing Nick to Butcher, and that's who I'd get to play him if it was a movie. So I started thinking that way too, because a friend of mine who he works on animated movies. And yes, a friend of mine works on animated movies, and he was actually going to do the illustrations for me at first. Not at first, but he was one of the artists that was going to work with me, but he got tied up with work. He asked me, because he works on movies, so he had a different way of looking at this. He's like, if you see So-Called Living as a movie, who would play Jack? And I was like, I don't know. And then, but he put that, and I was like, I don't know who would play these people, because that's not how I thought of it. But then I went back and I started thinking of it. I was like, okay, Butcher would play Jack, right? The guy from, sorry, Butcher would play Nick. Jack, the guy whose teeth is being exposed, the next panel down. Jack would be played by, I forgot what his name is. I keep forgetting his name. The guy he played the young kid on Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh, Joe Gordon-Levitt.
Yes, that's who I would have play Jack.
Nice.
His girlfriend is Autumn from Third Rock from the Sun. Like,
I feel like this is an approximate of the old well, pitch me the movie. Well, it's Die Hard on a boat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like that kind of like vibe. And I also like that you basically like you set your sandbox. And we've said this up before in the writers episode we did, Keith. It's like you set your sandbox, you set your rules, and then you're playing in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like you said, it's broad strokes, and you're doing a little bit of the infamous Carissa Grant, who I don't know if you've run into Carissa or have seen her out. She's another indie creator out there, and she'll write her comics in character from the character's mentality and then send it to a writing partner who then writes it from that character's perspective. And it's just like in the moment of the character's headspace, much like what you said was like, oh, this guy stubs his toe. How would he react? Oh, he needs to go somewhere. Well, he needs his friends because he's doesn't have his shit together. Like, it's very much living in the character's headspace. I love that you did that. And I love that there's commonalities amongst creators that, create that way,
There's actually two corrections or awarenesses. You tell me how you classify these later in the book. I left in there because I thought of it as I was writing it, and it was here's two examples. First one, Jack originally said in the first book, you can catch. Oh, he says he says it still, but he says I guess you can catch more bees with honey. Now, a buddy of mine read that script, and he's like, "It's flies with honey." I was like, "What?" He's like, "The saying, it's flies with honey." I was like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "You wrote it's bees with honey." I was like,
Perfect.
"Oh, right." So that I wrote. He's like, "He should fix it." I was like, "No, he's not going to fix it because he's an idiot. Because I'm an idiot." So, so he says, "It's I guess you can catch more bees with honey." And his girlfriend, who's like the snarky one, was like, "It's flies, not bees." And she explains it to him. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And she explains it. It's like, you can catch more flies with honey, not bees. Bees make the honey. And then he's like bee. I can't remember what his line was, but it was something like, "Well, bees must they make honey, so they must like honey." But and she's like, "God, you're an idiot."
No, I like
it's like Biff from
I was just gonna say that.
yeah, Biff from Back to the Future. He's like, "Why don't you like make like a leaf and get out of here?"
Biff, just so you know, all those things that Biff's, I compare my wife to Biff all the time. She says things like that all the time. Make like a tree and get out of here. Like, yeah, she does that all the time. And it's become a joke.
That's great.
And
one thing I wanted to go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Another one that happened, and like their names are the girl Jack and his girlfriend's Jill. Now, when I wrote that, I didn't even think of Jack and Jill because originally when I wrote Jack, his name was Mark. It was Mark and Jill, and then I couldn't write for a guy named Mark because that was me. I thought I was writing for me, and I was like, I can't write for me. I can write for somebody else. So somebody else gave me the idea of like just change his name. So I was like, okay. So I was watching 24 at the time, so I was like, okay, Jack.
Power.
And then ended up being Jack and Jill. So it was a total fluke. So I didn't even clue into me because I'm like looking at the script. I'm writing Jack and Jill. Like I'm not saying Jack and Jill.
Yeah,
right. So and then it gets to the point where Nick realizes, he's like, wait a second, you guys are Jack and Jill. He'd realized that when I realized that because it came up in the script. So I wrote, so he thought that was hilarious. Like, you're Jack and Jill. And then he's trying to explain it to his buddy who doesn't get it. And he's like, they went up the hill. He's like, I don't know what you're
I like that though. I think that's fun.
I do like that because you can play to that. It's like almost like Hansel and Gretel witch hunters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could play to that angle. I like that a lot.
Well, you can make fun of it too. You can use it as part of the story. Like, oh, here comes Jack and Jill. Someone could be like saying that, or
it fits into the world, and it was a happy accident. It fits.
Yeah,
really well.
That's good.
You should write the proverbial "they went up a hill to get the pail of water." Like write their version of what that would be. You know what I mean? Do it as an annual or a one shot.
They do go up a hill.
Well, there you go. You did it already.
They start off at the bottom in a parking lot getting food, and then they go up a hill. Like Jack chases her up a hill.
Was that intentional, or did you just do that?
That was. I don't even remember if I said hill. I think I said it was like a little bump that you'd see like of grass. But the way Marco drew it, he drew a hill, and I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Does Jill stick around for a while, or can we not talk about that?
Or my buddy John Boss made a nice.
Let's just say I have
both with a buck and a.
Do you remember that nice joke?
Yes.
Jill came down with 250.
250. Ow.
Dice is awesome.
Oh my god, so funny.
But so Harry knows a little bit about what happens to Jill.
Yeah.
I can say that I have plans for Jill, but not in these 8 issues. So but I do have plans for her in the future when the story, because 8 issues is going to wrap up this story. And then when I start a new story, it'll probably be, so-called living Wonder Years. I don't know what because I haven't even started writing those. But it'll be like another, like a bunch of mini series, right? So you can get like these trades and they'll be complete. They won't just be like one that you need of 20. So I'd like to make them small so I can make complete trades and people just pick up the trades if they want and read the entire story.
That was a great show, though. Wonder Years. Showing my age. But I used to watch. I watched the Smallville podcast too, called Talkville, and they basically watch all 10 seasons of their show, and then they comment after the show, like, and how what they thought, and it's so funny because Michael Rosenbaum like hates a lot of the things in the show. It's like, why would they do that? That would never happen in the show. Clark would never do that, whatever. But like there's so many parallels between. I'm bringing it up because I just watched it the other night. You know, the latest episode. But there's so many parallels between the Wonder Years and Smallville. Like Clark can never tell Lana who he is because of obvious reasons. And like Kevin never told Winnie, like
Yeah, right.
how he felt, and I'm like, it's like so aggravating. It's gonna smack him around a little bit.
Well, I wonder if writers just kind of absorb what they consume and filter it out into their own creativity. Maybe they were actively watching Smallville while writing that when the same way Mark was kind of, binging 24 and kind of pumping his work out. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one thing the point I wanted to, I'm going to bring up the Kickstarter here in a minute so we can take a look at it. But Mark, the art I wanted to talk about really quick is when I first saw the artwork, I was like, it reminded me instantly of
your stuff, right?
What's that?
Your comics, actually. What's that? Swamp Tales, or not Swamp Tales? What's that? Swamp comic?
Hero Envy?
No. There's a swamp.
No, my comic?
Yeah, your comic. A swamp something.
Swamp Tales.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that kind of style of drawing, actually.
A little bit. I was gonna say the book that it really reminded me of was like Chew by Image Comics. Did you ever read that book?
Yeah, I have. And it's funny because you're the second person that said that. And I actually try to reach out to the artist of Chew. I can't remember what his name is.
Rob Guillory or
yeah,
something?
because I know somebody in the board game industry who knows him. So I was like, oh, hey, I know this person. And I was like, I'd love if you did a cover for my book, or maybe like whatever. Let's just talk. I'd love to work with you. No response.
Oh,
none? Really? I met him once at a convention, and he seemed like, I don't know, I didn't have a great reaction with him. Like he seemed like maybe he was just having a bad day or something, but who knows?
You got to take that shot though, right? Like if you want to work, like if you're like, I really wish I want to cover from that guy, you got to take that shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get shot down. You might get shot down, or you might, you never know. You might get the cover. You never know.
I also reached out to Ramos, like
Humberto
Ramos.
It's very Humberto Ramos,
because that's the style I wanted for So-Called Living. So Marco is pretty close.
Like let's bring it up. I love
I think when Keith mentioned it to me, he goes, that was exactly, he said Humberto Ramos.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I feel like all those styles are kind of the same. Well, not the same,
absolutely.
but it reminds
Love
me
the
of
logo
like
as well, by the way.
YA style, like like you see this style like on a lot of YA graphic novels. Is it what's his background? Has he done stuff for any of the big companies?
Marco's in Italy, and like I don't know him. Like I've only met him for us working together, and I met him through a studio in Italy who they do outsourcing work for Disney and Marvel, and they do a lot of outsourcing work for just a variety of things. And Marco is one of the artists they have in their portfolio. So met him, and I was like, I'm looking for somebody that draws like this. And then they're like, what do you think of this portfolio? And I was like, perfect, because I had a certain style in mind for So-Called Living. I did put out a call out on Twitter for artists, and everything I got back was like anime romance novels style. And I was like, that's great, but that's not So-Called Living.
Yeah, so I love this. I mean, it looks exactly like Chew to me, like that kind of style.
It's got that vibe for sure.
Very fun. I like the funness of this kind of artwork,
And Chew was great.
Yeah, it was great concept, different. Did you ever read that, Johnny?
So I read like a little bit of it, but I never read it all the way through.
Yeah, I never finished it myself.
Yeah.
It's one of those runs that just had like it kind of, you could tell like they were watching that show Pushing Daisies, and they kind of found like a new take on it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Now that you say that, I can see that connection. Yeah, they kind of like took Pushing Daisies, broke the story, and kind of repatched it to their, to that different style or vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as soon as I read Chew, I was like, oh my god, this is Pushing Daisies, but done,
but a little bit more
food.
Extreme. Yeah,
done with food.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great. And this looks awesome, Mark. I gotta admit this. I mean, look at these covers. So good.
These covers are beautiful.
Yeah, Mark,
love that right there.
Great job.
Were you floored when these covers came in? Like,
yeah, well, I actually, for those two that he did, I I scribbled this an ugly concept. I was like, for the first one, I was like, it was really quick because I was like, I don't want to tell him what to like. I don't want him to redraw my drawing. So, and I was like, but to give him an idea, I was like, here's a box of fries. I downloaded a picture of box of fries. I could use AI to explain this now. Easier.
Yeah, right.
So, like, at the time, I was using it, so I like Googled box of fries, stuck it on there, and then I scribbled characters in it, and I copy and pasted from drawings he's done, and I stuck them in the fries. I was like, I want the guys in a box of chili fries, and I want them chilling on it like they are in that cover. And then he came back with it. I was like, excellent. But mine is so ugly. It's like a cropped head with a square still around it, and like ugly and a scribble here and there. And I was like, I want Jill laying here, and then here's a pose. And then he knocked it out. And I did the same thing for the fiery head. And I was, but that one I was just like, I want a head, I want on fire, and I was like, characters here, and my characters like happy faces. It was just like it's his work, right? But I was just like stick figures, happy faces, like that's the idea. Like, and he did it. He knocked it out of the park, so it was great. I love it.
This guy's a great artist. I really like his style.
He's fabulous.
And
I loved his zombies.
Oh yeah, the zombies look great. I love it.
Too. And you got all kinds of perks here. What was the scribble like for this one?
Speaking of perks,
For real.
So the sex, if you know, I have two different cover variant packages. Like the one you scrolled by is a friend of mine, the purple one with the guy running at you, with Jack running at you.
Yeah,
that Derek Loffman designed that. He's got a huge following on Instagram, and he's designed toys for Marvel. He's done a lot of professional work. Oh, wow. He's great. He's local. Like I've worked with him for I hired him into the video game industry, and then he left, and now I'm asking him for help.
Yeah, right. No, that's great.
But yeah, he did that cover, and then the cover next to it was a famous Toronto artist he does city photography. So and since I'm from Toronto, I thought I'd pay homage to my hometown, and I'd put it on the cover. So take one of his photos.
Nice.
I've known Ashton. That's who did the photography. I've known since he was like 10 years old.
Oh wow.
So
I think is there a specific significance to that street or that cover per se, or is it just one of his pieces that you made as a cover?
It's one of his pieces that I made as a cover, and it's just kind of, you start seeing more of the city in book 2. So I wanted to show some of the city, because there is a part in book 2 where there's significance with somebody crossing the street. I don't want to give it too much away.
Okay, right on.
And so I wanted to have just a street scene, just have something.
I said in the very last episode we did with Diodatos, I'm a sucker for these like live action covers. I love that shit.
Well, I think this cover goes well with your title too. Like it almost like gives like that slice of life comic kind of feel.
Yeah,
like, totally from that cover and stuff. Great idea. Like I never thought to do something like that with a cover, like to do to use an artist that, like almost a professional photographer kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I love his work, so I'm just happy to be able to use it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah, no,
and
looks
then,
great, dude.
What were you going to say about these two covers?
So yeah,
so you can leave them on there for a while, Keith.
So these covers, I said in the beginning, I do a lot of research, right? And my research led me to the fact that most of the best funded comic books on Kickstarter are softcore porn.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of big boobs, there's a lot of women in bikinis, lasers, and and that's fine. I like sexy women just as much as the next guy, but so-called living isn't that story. Harry, you read it? There's nothing sexy about so-called living. No. And I was like, because I was talking to my wife, and she was like, why don't you do a sexy thing? I was like, because that doesn't match. It doesn't match the world. It was like, it would be weird. But then I was like, but if I roll it into the humor of the world, that's why it's got a badge that says obligatory sex pot edition.
I like that.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's playing along with the fact, like, hey, if you want to be successful on Kickstarter as a comic book, you need a sexy cover. So here's ours.
I like it.
And it fits. It's in line with the comedy of the comics. For me to do this, it needed to line up with the comics somehow. So
Gotcha.
it lines up with the comedy in the comic. It lines up with like their personality being like, yeah, we're gonna hell do it. That's what people want. Give people what they want.
I
And-
like that you
so-
acknowledge that those covers are AI kind of generated, but it's
One of
al-
them is,
also,
yeah.
yeah, the one, yeah, but it's kind of sad that you have to, say that. And to me, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's good that you're being upfront or honest about it, But
Yeah, I mean, well, you got to understand, Harry, like with the comic community, you won't find a lot of people that are like pro AI,
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
So wait,
fact
that is
that
an
he's-
AI cover. That one on the left.
the fact that he's being truthful about it, I think people will appreciate.
That's honorable.
no, that's what I'm saying. It's good that you're genuine or honest about it.
And here's what I'm trying to say. Like, I also like the AI cover also works because so many of these sexy books are AI art, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure that people are not that everybody who does AI artwork is even claiming it on Kickstarter as AI artwork. So, but a lot of people do. And what I wanted to do, because I am an artist myself, but I didn't have time to do the whole thing on my own, and I want a specific style, and I saw a lot of this AI style going around, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. So what I did is a mixture of like I can't remember because it was last year I did this. I had it a while ago, and I kind of put it on the side burner, and then I got an artist to do it, but then they didn't finish it and they left, so I brought it back. And I photoshopped it to this, but it was this thing where you basically, there's a lot of actually other sites that do this, but you put in drawings, you give it like reference materials of like, I want it to be painted like this, and I pumped in a Frankenstein,
Yeah,
and I got this.
it's kind of like weird science.
Weird
Yeah.
science. That's
You're
what I
right.
was gonna say. Was Ana de Armas in the mix? Because she kind of looks like Ana de Armas.
So I got kind of this. And then I had to Photoshop a lot of it because if anybody knows, working with AI, their hands are just a disaster.
Oh
So-
yeah.
I've heard
But,
about that, yeah.
but
But
there's
Mark,
certain-
I like what you said though. In your write up there, you did say, yeah, sure, it's AI, but I mean, you like just got done saying like you put a lot of like thought into it. You did sketches and ideas and whatever. So a lot of it is your ideas. You put some work into it, but AI, kind of like helped you with it.
Yeah.
So so that's
So
good.
like I understand a lot of people are like, I wanted to try it,
Mhm.
so I did. And I understand that a lot of people are against it, but one thing people should know is like, if you're buying this, the AI doesn't get your money. Like me who wrote it, the Marco, the money helps pay him. So like real people are getting the money who put a lot of work into
Mhm.
these.
Into the
Like-
other aspects.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
because
Only different aspects
clearly
of
the AI is just like a fun one-off cover anyway.
It
It's
is,
not like
it
you're
is, right.
leading with that. It's just
No.
like, hey, this
Well,
is just like a fun little side thing we did. So unlike other people, so you mentioned about putting a word out and a call out on Twitter for artists and stuff. I did this once for a cover, and I got people legitimately bringing AI stuff back, passing it off as their own. And I'm
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me right now?
Well, what's funny is when he starts doing conventions, which we kind of talked about backstage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
Um,
going to ask her if you're doing conventions yet or
I think
not.
this will be his hottest selling cover, won't you think,
100%.
Johnny?
100%. Bring
100%.
print
And
double of these.
It's
please.
limited. It's limited. So
is
I'm
it?
not going to print a lot of these.
Was that a
There
pun?
you go.
Pun intended.
It's limited,
Print,
but
print a double on
print-
these.
The guy next to me at New York Comic Con had cheesecake pinups, and that guy was bumping all weekend long. Like, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
just
it
like,
sells.
yeah, it's just
Sells, it
sells, you
does,
know?
absolutely. And the cover
Mascots
beside
made a
it,
career on it,
Yeah.
the cover beside it was drawn by a friend of mine, Jamie Reel. I also worked with Jamie, and he's a great artist, but drawing sexy covers, I don't think it's something he necessarily feels comfortable with. But I was like, hey, can you do a cover for me? He's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, I wanted to be a sexy cover, and I explained the whole thing to him, and he's like, "Oh, why'd you get me to do this one?" I was like, "Come on, you got this." I was like, all right. So he did.
funny.
So he did that one. And these characters are characters in the books, but they don't look like that. And I always use it
Gotcha.
as a reference. Harry, you read the book.
Mhm.
The girl on the left is a sexy version of Jill. It's kind of like when you go
very
to
nice, very
Comic-Con and they do a sexy version of like Luigi and Mario, or you
Yeah.
see
Oh, yeah.
SpongeBob. That's it. She's wearing roughly the same colors as Jill.
If that's Jill, then I definitely hope she comes back.
No, yeah. It's
Oh, that's some Night of the Lemurs business right there.
Oh yeah, Night of the
Those bunnies.
Lemurs, right?
Leepu. I think it's Leepu at
Is it-
LEP. I think.
I think we all know what we're talking about, though, right?
Yeah, like the,
The giant killer rabbit movie.
Giant killer rabbit movie.
Love
yeah.
it. Was that the inspiration there, Mark?
I've never even heard of what you're
I've never
talking
seen it
about.
either.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
there's
an
actually a
old
mo-
70s
what-
movie.
Yeah, what you drew here is like an actual movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it.
I never have either. It's pretty.
But yeah, bunnies. There's a whole bunny motif through this whole thing.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Night of the Lepus. That's what it is.
You
Yeah,
notice the
Lepus.
border on everything? The border on everything is all bunnies.
Oh,
look
you
at
know, I
that.
didn't notice that until you pointed it out. That's pretty clever.
It's the whole page is bunnies filled with
Holy
bunnies.
crap.
Blood bunny keychain. That's great.
So now you got to do the Playboy Bunny. That's
Oh,
your
look at
next sexy cover. The next campaign, do the Playboy
And
Bunny.
maybe
There you go.
what's his name? What's the guy's name? The Playboy guy.
Yeah.
Hefner. Yeah, bring him back as a zombie, maybe.
Well, actually, that's a
Smoking
funny
jacket.
combination you mentioned there. The sexy covers for I was already talking to an artist to draw one of the sex pod editions for the next Kickstarter, and I started talking to him about it's going to be a sexy zombie girl.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a sexy zombie, and then the next one I can't say what it is because it'll be a spoiler. But the sexy bunny I do want to do, but that'll be for book 5 or 6. It's
Okay.
there's
one.
a character that would suit in those scripts. So I'm
Okay.
waiting
I mean,
for that one.
it's got to be based on reality too, because you got to think, if people turn to zombies in the West Coast, like you got to see some silicone zombies walking around, right? I mean, it's got to be some truism.
Absolutely.
She's all rotten, but
Yeah, she got a
Yeah,
perfect rack, though.
Yeah, those are perfect, but the rest, it's kind of funny actually.
It's pretty funny.
So
Project
we're
we
going-
love, man. Congratulations on that.
yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is there a
Anytime I see it on an
specific?
American? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Every time I see the page brought up on like on an American site because I'm Canadian, it looks like I've lost money because the goal is 5,000 in Canadian dollars, and it's at like 5,700 in Canadian dollars.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
What
So when I
happened?
see your numbers, it's always like a drop. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, also congratulations on overperforming. That's great,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you
So
for
awesome
Yeah,
to
with
see that.
17 days to go, you could
Yeah, plenty of time to go.
yeah to make more and double it. Triple it even. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a
You're
specific? What I was going to ask is if there was a specific perk that you've been recommending to people on your campaign.
A perk? You mean like? Well,
One of the pledge tiers. Is there one
Pledge
that in
deals, I'm
particular?
sorry, yeah.
The
the
good value?
the bunny Kickstarter, the bunny Kickstarter, the bunny keychain that was in the add-ons.
Okay.
If you add that on, those bunny keychains we make ourselves, like in this house. Not that we get a
Oh,
company
wow.
to make them. We make them ourselves in this house. We design them. We have a laser cutting machine.
Oh,
so
cool.
we make
Oh, no
them.
kidding.
And if you get the keychain, it's $8 Canadian again, so that's like 8 cents to you guys. If you get the keychain, you also get membership into what I've called the Blood Bunny Colony, and from now on, every so-called living Kickstarter, you'll get something. I don't know what that is yet. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's going to be like either a percentage off, free upgrade to your backer level, a free print, a free sticker, something. I want to give rewards. So basically, at minimum, you're going to get a keychain. And then if you come back, your email will be because it's only limited to 1 per backer. So I'll know if you backed and you added that on. I'll have your email in a list. And then when you come back, I know to apply that upgrade or whatever it is to your to your backer level, and you'll know by then what it is. Because
That is so cool. That's the
Great
coolest
idea.
thing I've ever heard, man. You just created a secret society for your fandom.
that's
That's
what I wanna do.
that's dope.
I want to be able to give back to the people that helped me out. Cause like, this
Yeah,
is something
man.
I've always wanted to do. It's a dream. It's like so many of us had this dream about writing comic books, but it's so hard to get done, especially as a writer, because as a writer, you need the art to bring people in. Your story can be great, but if you don't have the art to lure people in, it's hard to get them.
Yes.
Right, it's hard to break that
100%.
barrier, and same thing works the other way
100%.
around. Art is great; great art can lure people in, but if the writing is shit, then they don't stay. So they both need to work in tandem.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I've learned this
Great.
the hard way.
Why is that? Why do you say that, Johnny?
I won't even get into it. I don't want to insult anybody.
We all do, Johnny. That's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
a learning curve with anybody, I think,
I mean,
You
no
know.
ill will.
But no, this looks fantastic,
This
Mark,
this
and
does
I'm
looks really good.
just
I'm gonna have
shocked
to
it's your first
back it.
one. Like
You guys should read it. You guys should
you're,
read it.
I'm definitely gonna read it.
yeah,
It's
we
quick.
definitely
It's a
will. And
quick read.
I mean, you threw a Kickstarter together like a champion here, man, for the
Hey,
first
yeah.
time.
For real.
Amazing.
It's I just wanted to be I just wanted it to be pretty. I looked at a lot of the Kickstarters, and I liked how board game Kickstarters look better than comic book Kickstarters in general.
Yeah.
Overall, I thought again I built a site that or a page that would appeal to me. So to me, if there's too much text and too many pictures and blocks, I find that distracting, or it doesn't appeal to me as much as something that's like, oh, it's a pretty page and there's not a lot of text, and the important text is bolded, so I don't have to read the little bits. I can just get the numbers. This is $14, and here's the pictures of what you're gonna get, and it's simple. It's like boom, 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 and there's only 5 tiers. So
It makes it easier too.
It's not like 19 or 20 tiers, which I saw a lot of comic books do. And I see a lot of like successful comic books do this. So like when I say this, I'm not knocking anything, because like I looked at successful pages that have done this. They were a lot more successful than I am. And but if I looked at their backer levels, most of them were like 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 1. And then there was like 3 or 4 of them that were like 80 backers, 40 backers, 100 backers. So I was like, well, I just want those.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to like
the
whittle it down to just the minimum there.
And I don't know if it's changed, but like for a while there, the all-in package was our best selling one, was our best backed tier, which was fantastic. I remember when I tried to explain that to my wife, because she doesn't read comic books. She's into board games. She likes comic book movies, but she supports me. She's 100%. If it wasn't for her, this thing wouldn't exist. And she was like, why? I don't understand why would people buy the same book with just different covers? I was like, because we do. That's what we do.
You didn't live through the 90s with all the hologram covers. You didn't live through Fatal Attractions like we did.
I think
Fatal Attractions.
I think it's worse now. There's
It's
so
worse now.
Yeah, it is
many,
worse now.
I end up buying the same book twice by accident, because I'll go the next week and be like, did I get that? I don't remember that cover. Oh, because that was a variant for this. Like,
Yeah, I work in a store part-time, and they're doing variant covers on second and third printings now. Like 2 or 3 of them. And I'm like, what the hell?
I can't wait for Marvel to have to sell all their characters again to save themselves from bankruptcy.
But Donnie, it's every issue. Like, it's just like Power Girl 30 comes out and it's got 3 covers. It's like, what?
yeah,
So
there's like,
what do
looking
you,
for
what do
that.
you guys
Many.
do with the variant covers? You guys like open or read the one that you don't give too much care about, and then keep the other ones that you like in wraps still, or
yeah, I don't read. I keep the ones. If I buy 2, I keep the one pristine.
right,
Yeah, for sure.
And buy a throwaway.
But back in the day, it used to be that there was like your hologram cover, your direct edition cover,
Yeah.
and then your newsprint edition. So like they made these different versions of books for different markets. You know what I mean? And only like half of them survived. So that's why some of these books are rare, because of just the nature of the way they're printed and the way they're,
Do
handled.
you guys remember Gen 13? They had 13
Yes.
different covers.
Yes.
Now that's
craziness.
tame by today's
I
numbers.
did that.
Dynamite
I had those.
Comics is, I gotta say, the worst for this, because they just had Thundercats #1. If you look in the back of the first issue, it's 3 pages worth of all the covers. Like, because not only did they do like at least 50 covers, like Dynamite did at least 50 covers for this. Not only is those 50 covers back there, but it's all the shop exclusive covers now too. Like that's a whole thing, Johnny. It's crazy.
That's wild.
I,
That's
I'm
wild to think
using
about.
I'm using CLZ to catalog my comics, and it's got
Yeah.
the barcode reader. So I'm like, boop, 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 boop. But some of them, it's like it opens up this category, and there's a drop down, and it's like just variant covers. Like,
Yeah, forget it. If you're gonna catalog Dynamite, you're gonna be there all night. It's like I can't even believe it. I was like,
So do you guys like have to have all of them? Like if you have a
not
comic
me,
book,
not me.
well,
No.
or then do you pick and choose which ones you care more about, or how does it
You
work?
know how I pick it, Harry?
Yeah.
Usually the A cover's $1 cheaper for some reason. That's how I pick it.
For me, as a young guy, when I was early, like young me collecting comics, I bought every cover. If I liked
Did
it,
you
I
really?
wanted to get every cover. But now I was like, I'm just gonna pick which variant I like the best.
You know what? You know how I pick it? Jugs.
Every once in a while, these variants have one
Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
I got the book for you. You want tier number 4?
Sorry.
Oh, amazing. Oh, on that note, we're at 1 hour and 42 minutes. So I think
Flew
we're
right
gonna
by.
have to wrap this up because we got. Doesn't feel like it. It feels like we've been talking
No,
for 10
Great
minutes.
talking
now.
to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been a
no,
good time.
Mark, you've been a great guest.
Yeah,
and,
sorry for all of
tell
our
you're a good
tangents, Mark.
YouTuber, You know,
No, I'm a tangent guy. You say I've said this before. I went to a school to go talk to these students. I was supposed to be there for 15 minutes. I talked for 2 hours. You ask the right question and it's done. You're done.
Yeah.
We should have
I
a
love
tangent.
that.
We should have a tangent off.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I do love guests that are, that can talk. Like we've had good luck with that, but there's been a few times where it's like you're pulling out an answer from somebody, and I like the other way, when the guests are very talkative. So thanks for being a guest.
Just don't ask yes, no questions.
Yeah, exactly.
We ask leading questions.
Yeah, exactly. As we wrap up here, if you want to share any, I'll share the Kickstarter in the chat here as well for people to check it out. If you're watching this tomorrow on the channel, go to the description of the video. They'll have the link for Mark's Kickstarter here. It looks awesome. It looks like if you're a fan of comics like Chew or even just fun like monster comics, I think that you'll love this book. It seems like a nice take on this kind of story. So I definitely, and you're getting it from a seasoned guy here that been in the video game industry and knows comics, been a lifelong comic fan. So I think this is going to be a great book to check out.
I forget what Mark, you had like 3 movies that you compared this to. I forget what they were. There's like 3 different.
I think in the Kickstarter I compared it to I think it was like Friends, Breaking Bad, and Sopranos. Like they have aspects of those
with zombies.
with zombies.
Yeah.
With zombies. I like that. Friends, Breaking Bad, and Sopranos.
It's like aspects of those. I think if you read it, it makes sense. If I just say it, you're like, if you read it,
I get the Sopranos, the werewolves, right? Is that Sopranos? Part?
Yeah. You got it.
Right.
Nice.
I gotta read this.
Mark, any other links or anything you want to mention as far as like where people can follow you or follow along with the book and things like that?
Yeah. Well, head over to Kickstarter because like all the support is I appreciate it. I know we funded, but the funding goal is just like the bare minimum we do to get the next one out. So it would be great, and it's a great story. Like you're not gonna lose out. You're gonna get two books, and it's a great story. And in the end, it'll wrap up after 8 issues. But those 8 issues don't happen unless these early Kickstarters get funded. So please check out So Cold Living on Kickstarter. And if you like board games, check out Board Game Coffee on YouTube.
Awesome. There we go. Very cool. Johnny, Harry, anything you guys want to shout out this week?
Harry?
Not really. I'm just busy working on side projects, keeping me busy. So
nice.
Nothing.
It's big logos to do. That's great.
Yeah, logos. Yeah. So logoing away.
Nice. How about you, Johnny?
I'm going to spend this week trying to keep my mental health in check.
Lot going on, Johnny.
Oh, work, life, everything is bananas. You know what? I also realized that I'm very quickly coming up on C2E2, and I'm not even prepared for that yet. So like I got to get my acting gear.
This weekend, Johnny, you got to carve some time out. And do
I
it.
know it's hard. That's the problem. It's just hard. It's hard to, got too much going on.
Yeah.
Well,
I hear that.
I was telling Keith before you came on, like I was very prepared to have a very relaxing weekend this past weekend. And then I got 2 logos to do, and then I got a t-shirt design to do. I'm like, all right, there goes my whole weekend, So
Yeah. Well, you plan, God laughs, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But really what I wanted to say was, Mark, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. As we were just saying, we have busy schedules to come on the show, share your project with us, share a little bit about yourself as a creator. We greatly appreciate it.
Right. Nice meeting you virtually.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I agree with Johnny, and thanks for coming on the show. When I got your email, I was like, wow, this book looks amazing. How can we not have this guy on, So
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
guys are awesome. You guys
Thanks,
are awesome.
man.
Why like you need to break that 1,000, because like people the problem is it's not what you guys are like doing, because you guys are awesome. It's being noticed on YouTube, which is difficult.
Yeah,
And if you can
that's for
crack
sure.
that egg,
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're trying. And I think like the thing that's helping us is we're just staying true to what we do, and then we're growing slowly, but we'll get there. We're taking that slow road to
aggregating
get
natural
there,
numbers.
What'd you say, Johnny?
We're aggregating natural numbers. We're not
Exactly.
inflating it with any click farms or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, but all right, everybody, thank you for checking out this episode of Indie Comics Relay. Please go to Kickstarter and take a look at So-Called Living. Mark can use your help in funding this project, and it's a really good one. So definitely check it out. And like I said, tomorrow, if you're watching this on the channel, go to the description of the video and click the link right there. And we wish Mark the best. And so I think we're back live next Monday night. We might be doing multiple episodes the next couple of weeks. We got so many people, friends of ours, that want to get on the show.
Did I just say it was busy?
Yeah, I know. Johnny, forget it. Your life's done.
My life's over.
It's over, man.
I'm happy to be here, so it's all good.
You're just permanently ICR. Just keep that camera on.
I'm just going to keep the camera. We're going to turn this into like the
brother.
real world.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You're going to see me in the middle of the night in my boxers over here,
Oh,
sleepwalking.
Yeah.
I should get some subscribers up.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But everybody, have a great week, and most importantly, read some comics, and we'll talk to you later. Good night, everybody.
Be excellent to one
Good night.
another.